that creativity dies is when I'm super stressed about the wrong things, right? So you have to understand what kills your creativity and also what ignites it.
We've all seen them, those experiences that stop us in our tracks, the moments that flood our feeds, shift culture, and bring people together. I'm Aja Bradley Kemp, and I've helped generate millions in revenue and billions of impressions by creating scroll-stopping moments for some of your favorite brands and celebrities. This is Making the Moment, the podcast that brings you the untold stories, unfiltered insights, and big ideas from the architects behind the moments that matter. In each episode, I'll show you how to design experiences that not only captivate audiences, but also drive tangible value for your organization. Whether you're looking to build buzz, boost loyalty, or drive revenue, I want to help you design customer experiences that truly make an impact. This is for the moment makers and the culture creators. Welcome to Making the Moment. Welcome to Making the Moment, the show where we spotlight the culture shapers and brand architects behind the unforgettable experiences. I'm your host, Aja Bradley Kemp, and if you're in the business of creating campaigns that don't just land, but live, this episode is for you. Today's guest is an international force in brand experiences. From founding her own agency, Nostalgics, to leading immersive retail merchandising strategies and experiential for brands like Carol's Daughter and Mielle, and now Procter Gamble, Selina Davis has spent over 20 years turning brands into moments that move people. She is a dynamic mother of 5, a mentor, and a disruptor. And today she's here to drop all the gems. So let's get into it. Welcome, Selina.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here. And now, for those that don't know you, I want to go back a little bit in your career before we start talking about all the fun stuff that you do now. But, when did you realize that experiential was your calling?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you have a trait about you that you don't directly know is there. So people always used to ask me to organize things. They always used to ask me to just basically be the planner of things. And it could be anything from events at home or parties or just small things. I was just always that kind of person that people lent on. I actually started an agency for creatives. Initially, it was like one of my first businesses, and I was doing like hair, makeup, nails, photography, and I was able to do like all these sponsorships for like Mercedes-Benz and fashion weeks and all the things. So a lot of those skill sets kind of came in there in terms of the behind the scenes planning components of it. I did go to school for events, and I did do a degree in event management. As you know, a degree does not trump experience, so I can't say that my skills and my talents came from that, but I would say that it was a growing passion of mine. And then when I approached my first kind of client, ORS, at the time, to do all of their events and PR and digital, I kind of just pushed myself into it, and it kind of just evolved and grew over time. And that creative side of me is where I started really connecting to loving what I did.
You're from the UK. How did you end up here in the US and working with brands here?
So I really moved here for faith. I was 12 years old. I remember always feeling like I wanted to be in the US. Had never been here before, but some reason, something was inside of me that wanted to be here. Didn't know how I was going to get here. And then a few times I had traveled over here. There was one time I was around 13. My mum had bought like a motorhome, and we traveled from Orlando all the way to Miami. And I was like her Google map. You had the big map at the time, and I was that map girl reading and directing her all the way down to Miami. So I kind of fell in love with it then. And then because I had like clients, when I had done my agency, I had a lot of my clients were in the US, and I was obviously back home. I started building like connections and relationships with people, but ultimately the ultimate moment when I actually moved over to the US was a faith moment. I didn't have a job. I didn't have somewhere to stay, quote unquote. And it was just literally picking up my bags, my 5 kids, my husband, and we just decided to move. And the rest is history, as they say.
Wow, that is a huge leap of faith because it's one thing to do it when you're on your own. Like I picked up and moved to Australia, but I was
Yeah,
single. I didn't have any kids, and same thing. I didn't know where I was going to stay when I decided to do this. But yeah, to do it with a family,
yeah,
you definitely have to have a lot of faith and belief in yourself.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, how did you get started then working with beauty brands specifically? So, you talked about, you had with your agency, you were
Yeah,
working with talent and that, but at
correct.
some point, you kind of focused and niched down, so to speak, on beauty brands. Where
Yeah.
did that begin? And, what was the motivation that, where you decided, okay, beauty is the space that I'm going to plant my flag?
Yeah, I would say some of that seeding did start from the agency that I had, because when you're doing sponsorship for like designers, they want hair brands, they want makeup brands. So I was really building that ability to connect to the right people through that sponsorship avenue and working with various different companies and brands. And then when you're dealing with talent, they also can have endorsements and opportunities, and that was like something that was very organic, if I'm honest, kind of happening. So then what was one driver for me was looking at brands in the industry, in the space of events, and saying, and it seemed like it might be really bad, but saying, why do they look like that? And I can make them look better. And that's kind of was the driver. Like, it's one of the reasons why I had approached Namaste at the time, to be completely honest, because I had known that they were being acquired, or they had been
Mhm.
acquired, and it was like a challenge for me to see where they were and see how I can make a change. And I would say it kind of came from that. It just was the ability of taking this experience that I knew became like a standard or a comfortability for most brands. And of course, budget and all the things obviously play into that. And then stretching that to become more of an experiential component or opportunity, and then learning how that actually connects the brands to the consumers became the like real driver for me. So seeing that, a lot of beauty brands, we live on the shelves, we live on our phones, we can connect to them when we're shopping, but no one really has that moment where they can literally connect to a brand outside of like being an event, right? And not everybody has a founder story, not everybody has huge celebrities attached to it, but if they can connect to you in that moment, that to me is a lasting component, which I believe is what the experiential space offers to brands. And that's kind of where the passion came from.
So I know when we met during the pandemic, you were doing a lot of work around creating immersive retail experiences in store. What's your take on, what that store environment can deliver versus what a brand can deliver and ways they can connect in an external environment, like outside of their retail space? How do
Yeah.
you approach the two?
Yeah, I think it's been a missed opportunity for so many brands, that retail component, because our consumers live there all the time, right there, especially pre-pandemic. We were shopping a lot, we were inside of the stores, we were doing all the things. And to me, it's a very confusing space when you put yourself in that consumer's feet. When they walk up to the shelves, how are they choosing who at that shelf, right? And when you have maybe some marketing background, ultimately a shampoo can be the same across the shelf, but it's just different messaging, ingredients, etc., etc. So the ability to connect to the consumer in that retail space for me was a huge opportunity, because to me that's like an event. That's another way that you can either educate the consumer, that's another way for you to kind of pop out on the shelves at the consumer, and that's another way for your brand to differentiate itself from your competitors or others on that in that space. So for me, I just kind of see the retail environment and merchandising as an extension to experiential. And that's why when I think about things, my brain does think 360, because I understand the objectives of the marketing component, I understand the objectives of the sales component, and sometimes there's a disconnect between the two. there's the sales and marketing, but the
Hmm.
ability I have is I can see all around. So I can see how to connect the two. And the retail environment was a great opportunity to do that from, I would say, an experiential component and space. And it was like a white space because not a lot of people were doing much in that environment.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's, something that brands need to be a bit more strategic about when it comes to marrying their retail experience and using experiential almost as an extension of that,
Hmm.
versus having them live separately. And, like,
Yeah,
as you said, like a lot of times the sales teams might be, or merchandising team might be
right.
focusing on the retail. But I think there is a huge opportunity because all of these brands that we work on, they are in their either own retail environment or they're with a third party retailer. So it's just like, how do you make those experiences, what's the through line with
Correct.
those experiences, so that when a customer connects with it, is there some alignment
Yeah.
across those experiences, because that really then is what helps the brand like continue to resonate for
Yeah.
the consumer. That's that the multiple touch points. That's, I think, how you build brand love. It's that
Absolutely.
consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the foot. It's that through line. It's the ability to see all of it to the end. But the unfortunate thing is, a lot of it is always separate. It is
Hmm.
most companies have X person working on this and this person working on this, so then there's never really that ability to merge the sort of that connectivity and that experience all the way through, which is a missed opportunity for a lot of people, but a great opportunity for those that can leverage it.
And I think you've been fortunate enough to have experiences where you've been able to influence the brands that you've worked with to, think a bit more smartly about that, which kind of leads me to my thoughts around the work that you've done with Mielle, which is frankly legendary, in the beauty industry. But how did your journey with Mielle begin?
Yeah, so relationships are key for me. Like, they trump all things. And when we are in this space, you work with so many people who move to different brands and do different things all the time, right? So I have been fortunate to be able to garner some really great relationships. So it was a number of people who I was working with in my previous company, that then moved to Mielle. And they say people speak your name in rooms that you have no idea about. So multiple people were talking about me in this organization I had no clue about, because obviously I wasn't there. And at some point, I think I was ending my tenure with the ORS brand at the time, and I had a phone call, and that phone call said, "Selina, what are you doing for Essence?" And at the time, I had a client for Essence, and I said, "Oh, nothing." And she said, "Okay, it doesn't sound important. I need you in the convention center." Now, Asia, that was 4 weeks prior to Essence starting. 4 weeks.
Girl,
4 weeks, I had to come up with a convention center booth activation from scratch in 4 weeks.
I feel your
And
pain.
I took the challenge on. And when I tell you, that experience for me was such an eye opener of, number one, favor. God
Mm.
has got my back. I'm telling you, back, front, left, and right. We literally got to the location. You know about yard time,
Mm.
marshal yard times. They shut the doors, all the things, delivery issues, all the things. And we had lost a day because, as I said, we were hustling trying to get this whole booth activation done. And the night that were able to get the truck into the venue, the marshal yard had closed. They told us to park the truck. And obviously, you need days. You need the days.
Mhm.
Like, you lose
Mhm.
days and you need that time, because
Mhm.
end time is end time. No one's extending when the event doors are opening.
Mhm.
So I just remember sitting on my 20 by 20 floor on the carpet in the convention center, praying and saying, "God, how can we get our truck inside this building? I need my stuff." All of a sudden, I heard the noise of these carts, and my team, God knows how, because the marshal yard literally said she's not letting anyone in. we were able to get in, and we literally spent the whole night, dark as it needed to be, getting ourselves at least as far as we could,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously we had lost a day. So I say all
Mm-hmm.
of that to say is, relationship number one, I'm grateful for the relationships that I've built over the years. You never know who you're going to work with and where they go, because those forge amazing opportunities for you in the
Mm-hmm.
future.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, that was my first intro into Essence and being able to create an immersive experience that P Valley at the time absolutely loved. And I had no clue about P Valley, and they literally drew a whole concert around our booth at one point. So I say that was super memorable, for it to be my first experience there for sure.
Wow. Mielle really started to gain traction during the pandemic, with people being at home. I remember Monique and Melvin being on Instagram Live, and really that the community started to really flourish during that time frame. And then I would take it, Essence would have happened after the pandemic, right? This was post
Correct.
pandemic. And
Yeah.
then it was, just it felt like we're in 2025 now. I mean, it's only been 5 years since 2020, right? So
Correct.
it's been this fast path
Yeah.
to now the acquisition at P&G. So where did experiences start to take shape?
Yeah, so I think you touched on the head with Monique and Melvin and the team that they had prior to even me being here, being very active on that social platform, and they've truly been known for like their community engagement, their faith, their just love for people. So that's what you were seeing during that period of time. I would say being in this industry, being in some of the same spaces as them, not directly working with them at the time, they've always been in like events. They've always like done everything for the people. So when I came on board, it was 2022 when I came on board, when I did the Essence for them. And that probably was a time where they were doing, I think when they initially got their first like level of investment, I believe, was around that kind of period of time prior to or just after. And that particular year, we didn't, I don't believe we did a lot of events during that year. They got the funding, and obviously they were growing. They were they're 11 years this year, so they were growing anyway in an amazing organic way. So I would say the experiential kind of really kicked in for them during that first initial kickoff with Essence. But Essence is something they've always done, like a pop
Yeah.
up wise, but actual in the convention center. So I would say that attention drifted from social to being in that present, experiential, people coming back outside, wanting to see events. We literally were like everywhere you could possibly think of. And obviously, elevating that experience is what kind of heightened the attention even more.
Was that a difficult decision from a strategy perspective for you guys internally to decide, okay, we want to be at 10 places this year, 10 events? Because you can find at times that the marketing team understands the value of
Mhm.
experiential and being at events, but sales, C-suite, upper level management, they may not agree that that's the path. They might want to put all of that investment into something like digital because they feel like there's a more of a obvious ROI. What
Correct.
was the mindset or feeling around experiential in general when you guys started on
Yeah.
that path?
Yeah, I would say they being Monique and Melvin are community connectors. So a big part of who they are is being out there and being connected to whoever. Did budgets take a play, or was that a thought? Of course, the demand that we were having way outweighed the budget we had. So, we were getting requests like literally all the time. Requests were coming in all the time. So I would say number one, budget obviously took a play in that, because you can't do everything and be everywhere for everyone. So I would say that for sure. But then also because they had a passion for wanting to be there in those spaces, sometimes that passion trumped whether it was the right marketing or budget thing to do during that period of time. Obviously, over the last year or so, those strategical components have started to play more in the framing behind why we would do particular things. But I would say when I initially came on board, it was a huge driver for them. It was something that they had a huge legacy in terms of being out and being supporters of their community. So a lot of it was driven by the passion of Monique and Melvin, just want and need to wanting to always be supportive in their community. And that's kind of what was driving where we were going, why we were going, where we were going, over the ROI to your point, or over the did it make business sense or did it make budget sense. It was more of that component continuing.
Oh, that I think that's really refreshing to hear, because a lot of times I guess the data will help drive those decisions over passion when it comes to brands and founders. So it's really nice to hear that what you see with Monique, especially, and how she communicates with her community, that is all, it sounds very authentic. It seems very authentic. And what you've said, I think,
Yeah.
reinforces that authenticity, that they really wanted to be able to connect with their customers and be out there with the people and spend more time with them. And so that's great to hear.
Definitely.
I want to dig into your brain a little bit, and let's extract some of this expertise for our audience here. For you, when you sit down and you are planning an experience, and whether it was that first one for Essence or any of the other experiences that you've done since, especially for Mielle, where do you start? What's the starting point for you?
So it's so interesting, and some people say, like, do you have like all this technology and all the things that you do? I literally start from a piece of paper, and I'm just scrapping. I'm super scrap. I must have thousands of little books everywhere. I literally start from just drawing or thoughts or thinking about is what's next. I'm a person, and I'm probably not the best target audience for experiential because I get really bored. So, like, if I walk around an event and it doesn't excite me, I get really bored. And I think, like I said, I don't think I'm the ideal, but I do get, it does inspire me to see people going above and beyond for their consumer. And for me, that shows that number one is it goes beyond like a campaign, or it goes beyond just wanting to be in this particular room. You actually are trying to drive a connection to a consumer. So one of the things that I do very often, especially in the moments of those events, I take a step back and I just listen and see. I kind of observe like the engagement. I observe the responses that we're getting. I observe other people's responses, and it could be other people within the room, other vendors within the room. And those things kind of allow me to understand what's worked, what hasn't worked, what I need to improve. I'm never directly satisfied. Like, nothing's ever like, oh my God, it's so amazing. I so love it. And this is the best. Like, my achievements are so, like, my brain goes so high. So, they always say that you have Louis Vuitton mindset, but you may only have, like, target money. Like, so sometimes my ideas may not always match the budgets that I have, but I prefer to have these high thoughts, because not only, and one of the things that I don't think I mentioned before, Aja, is not only am I doing what I'm doing for the brand I'm working for, I'm also doing it to help others around me see the possibilities of what growth could look like, right? And especially when you're in rooms with smaller businesses, they come to me all the time and say, oh my God, I can't wait until I'm like this and blah, 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 and all the things. And I think for me, it's that driver of inspiration that you are imparting to other brands to see that they can also elevate. And it doesn't mean that they need to spend millions of dollars or whatever the budget may be. It's more that they can see themselves aspiring in a journey that they just have to continue on. And at some point, they will grow to wherever they need to be. And having that aspiration for me, or being that aspiration in the room for me, is a huge driver.
That's great. How do you translate your ideas and the things that you're coming up with on a global scale? Because you, with a brand like Mielle, it's not just here in the US, it's, the UK, it's Europe, Africa. How do you bring these concepts to life, making them still relevant for that local consumer? Because they're not, even though they're all lovers of Mielle, from a
Yeah.
cultural perspective, there's a
Yeah.
different connection. How do you continue to like create that brand consistency, but make it relevant for the different markets that you're working in?
Yeah, so I would say of late we've been able to engage, or I've been able to, and I'm going to say this, I've been able to engage and recommend people in those markets that I know have the same level of passion and I connectivity as I do. I would say a great advantage that I have, and I will have to take pride in this, is that because I came from Europe coming into America, my mindset is also not the same as if I would just say here. I would
Mm-hmm.
say you're the same. When you have a global mind, as in you've
Mm-hmm.
been able to be exposed to multiple different markets, you have the ability to see things differently and also then inject that into your thoughts and ideas, right? So I think that is a unique opportunity and a capability that we have that global eye, because to your point, some people will just take this framework, bring it there, and not understand that they don't understand it the same. And it
Mm-hmm.
could be something as simple in the hair industry, for example. Hair styles differently in Europe than it does to America.
Mm-hmm.
It could be when I used to do photography and all those kind of campaigns. A front cover image in the US could be super photoshopped, whereas in the UK they'll be like, why is it looking like that, right? But you have to understand that the audience is going to be different, and I would say that advantage has allowed me to be a great resource to those that we have been able to use in other markets, specifically like Europe, where you can. And obviously, I'm coming from Europe, then it just kind of helps to see it in a different way. So I'll just say the blessing and advantage is that global eye that
Mm-hmm.
you have been able to impart, whether it's through travel or work, a different mindset into what you do, because you know how to convert that to the audience.
Yeah. Yes, it's you have to have that education. You have to take it upon yourself to open up your mind and be open to different experiences. And I always would say to young people, especially young Black people, here in the US, before what we're dealing with now, and people are
Yeah.
like, okay, I need to go to Africa, whatever. Even before that, 10 years ago, I was always saying to young people, get a passport and go live somewhere else, even if it's
Yeah.
just for 6 months,
Hmm.
because people around the world are different, and they experience things differently. Words have different meanings to people, and also perspectives are different. How people live their life on a daily basis is very different when you get outside of this country. So, having everybody should take it upon themselves, if their job doesn't, put them in a position to be in another country, to somehow spend some time with people in other environments.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one thing I always say to people. If you haven't got a passport, they say, I want to go to America. I mean, go to Europe. Don't want to, just go. Like,
Just go.
just go.
100%. Outside of the beauty space, what are some brands that you admire, that you think do experiential right?
So I feel like the alcohol world are great. I love what I see over there from an experiential perspective. Um, it's one of those things. It's so interesting. Construction, um, like even like kitchen. I've seen some like appliances. When you look at their like expo spaces, it's like out of the
Hmm.
world. And then also international, especially when you look at like Middle Eastern places, that
Hmm.
technology has played a huge role, and they're like years in front of us in
Yep.
how they've been able to engage technology. And I think for me, that's some aspirational markets that you can really leverage, where technology may not be something as heavily used in our industry over here, whereas in other markets it has been. So I would say those are some of the things that I look at in other industries and markets.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely the Middle East, they definitely know how to do things. So I have to ask, you are a mother of five.
I am, ma'am.
I'm a mother of two. How are you doing this? Because I struggle being a mother of two in this industry with the amount of travel, like you gave the example with Essence, 4 weeks notice, like that's common. We all want 3, 6, 9 months to plan. We never get it. It's always, last minute. So how are you managing, and how have you managed over the years being able to manage being a mom, being a wife, and running a business, being a
Yeah,
leader,
yeah.
all the
It's
things.
you know, the trigger word that a lot of people say, balance and all the things, right? I don't believe there's no such word as balance when you are trying to figure out everything. In the pandemic, someone used the word harmony, right? So, as a mom of five, it's been hard. So I'm not gonna lie and say, oh my god, my life is amazing, it's been great. No, it's been hard. It's been hard because you obviously want to be present in all spaces at all times. One thing I'm grateful for is that my role is remote. So, I've been able to work around my kids' schedules when those things made sense. Now, have I missed birthdays at times because of the event falling on the weekend of my kids? Yes, I have. Have I missed moments, over the years, because obviously this job is paying our bills. So, you have to make those sacrifices. But I think over the last couple of years, I have prioritized the importance of my work, but also the importance of being present with my kids. And I
Mhm.
think it only comes with time. It's not something that you can, like, I can write in a book and say, these are the steps that you need to take. I feel like it's a mindset process that you have to evolve with over a period of time. Is it because you are great at time management? No, because I have a whole calendar for my kids. And do I forget sometimes? Yes. Do they have to call me and say, Mum, you forgot to pick me up? Yes. Because I'm on a call or something. But that being said, I think it's been more of a personal evolving of self, and really knowing how to prioritize as much as you can with the personal component of your kids, right? Because they're human, they're going through stuff. You want to be, present for them. And then learning that, especially the entrepreneurial type of person, which we are, we're all in all the time, right? Like, so I don't care what time of the night it is, you're all in. If something needs to be happening, you're all in. But what I've had to learn is how to reframe my time and actually switch off. Because if I'm not functioning enough, like if I'm too tired, or if I'm literally draining myself out because I'm working hours and hours and hours as well as doing the whole parenting part, I'm no good to no one.
Mhm.
Either way, right? I'm no good to no one. So one of the things I've done is I do not bring my computer in my bedroom. Like, I used to have my computer sit on my bed, wake up, lap things on my lap, right? Not saying I may not look at my phone, but my laptop does not enter my bedroom. And I'll say that's been the last couple of years. And that was
Mm.
very intentional, because I lived and breathed this computer and doing my work. So that's
Mhm.
one thing I think I've changed. I also now have learned to love sleep. Like, I do love
Mhm.
sleeping. And then as a mum, I don't get much time for me. So I wake up at 4 in the morning and I go to the gym. And I tried to have that moment for myself, prior to my kids waking up, because I just need a moment to set my life or my brain and do something for me before I start doing something for everybody else. So I think it's just been over time, just prioritizing what's important to you. But you will never always get it right. And there is never, I think it's a lie. Someone says my life is so balanced. It really, like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, there's no balance. The balance is a lie that we've been sold. And we're all like figuring it out now. Our eyes are being opened and we're learning how to navigate it because that's not happening.
Right.
And it's interesting that you say that, your workouts are how you kind of, find that time for yourself. Because I remember us having this conversation about, your workout schedule and you starting at 4 a.m. And I was like,
Yeah.
girl, how you start at 4 a.m.? Like, because I was finding that when I would work out in the morning, by the end of the day, I would be crashing.
Yeah.
But what I realized, and this goes back to your point about sleep, I've been on the sleep thing for a minute now, but I've been having a lot of issues with my sleep. I don't sleep well. But I figured out that the sleep is like the underlying component to
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah.
So once I figured out how to get better sleep, now, yes, I can get up. I go to a 6 a.m. class. I ain't doing 4
Yeah.
a.m., but I go to a 6 a.m. Workout, and, and that really does actually help my energy. And I can sustain, throughout the day, at least till 5, 6 o'clock. And then, yes, then I'm done. But
Yeah.
whereas before I was like crashing by 3 and I was like, I couldn't figure it out. But
Yeah. Yeah, and I
yes,
think
sleep
it's
is
just
key.
it's learning your body and being
Mm-hmm.
allowed to learn it and being okay with learning that journey of what works for you. But then also realizing that you are probably more productive in that time that you've had than you may have been when we've been like doing long nights or all
Mm,
nighters, all the things that I remember doing as a young entrepreneur, like literally killing myself, staying up all night. I'm not doing that. Like, it's not
mm-mm.
happening anymore. But it's only because you're learning yourself and you
Yeah.
value the health of yourself over the mental crash outs or the stress and all the other things that have happened to us over the years, because we've just put so much into what we do.
Yeah. And we're also at a different age now. We're not 25
Okay.
anymore. So,
No, we're not.
But-
I don't know about you, Asia, but I'm growing younger, so I need people to ask me for my ID. Okay.
oh, I'm not saying from a looks perspective, 100%.
Okay.
We look 25, but our bodies physically are not 25. So the 5 hours of sleep, the 3 hours of sleep, or staying
Yeah.
up till 6 a.m., getting an hour, and then going to work, we can't do that anymore.
No, not doing that at all. Not doing that at all.
How do you talked about sleep and working out, but how do you like creatively like reset, so that you don't burn out and also can like keep your ideas fresh and keep that excitement fresh? So, yes, from a day-to-day perspective,
Yeah.
managing, your time, but then, just from a creative perspective, because the work that we do, it takes a lot of energy, mentally, emotional,
Right.
physical, to be able to come up with all of these great ideas and be sketching and drawing. Like, how do you get that creative reset?
Yeah, I think it happens in a few ways. I have a good team that I work with who we can bounce off really great ideas from, and that has been a great fuel for me. I've also noticed when that creativity dies is when I'm super stressed about the wrong things, right?
Mm,
So when you're in an environment similar to, like, just, it could be anything, it could be super stressful, life could be busy, corporate world could be busy, things that are stressing you out can and will drain your creativity. And that could be even as a writer, it could be anything, right? Any creative person. You have to understand what kills your creativity and also what ignites it. So when you can identify the what kills it, and like I said, that could be stress, it could be relationship issues, it could be whatever it is. there are things that you can get really creatively you can die with, because you can feel it within yourself. You're like, why am I not feeling the feet? Like, it's really hard. But then also knowing and having the right creative people that can help you pull out of you what is inside of you. And one of the things I do know is about me is you can give me a few words, and from those few words my brain starts working like creatively. Like, I just start ticking, and all these ideas. And it could be just the entrepreneur talking about her journey and her brand, and I'll be like, all these ideas come into my head. But then on the flip side, when you need to turn it on and you really stressful, it's like you're pulling something that's just not there, and you have to just know that about yourself. And you really can't do anything in that moment apart from switch off, reset your mind, and then begin again, if that's possible.
Now, I almost forgot. We got to talk about this bag.
Oh yes, ma'am.
We
This
need to
bag
talk
that calls
about
fight. This
this
bag
is
calls fight.
yes. This is the bag. It's so funny. Over the weekend I was at an event for a client, and there was someone from the industry. I forgot which brand she worked for, but she was there, and we were talking about bags and all of the like iconic beauty bags from the last couple of years. And that pink Mielle bag, we're saying, had the girls in a chokehold for what, the last 2 years. It feels like, was it 2 years or was it just 1 year? Because it
So
felt like
that was our 10th year anniversary bag, and then the year before we had another tote bag that had the same effect. I don't know. Literally, we've had people. I think it was last year. We had some people fighting over these, but it's been a hot ticket for sure.
yes, my daughter even tracked Selina down at a festival 1 year. And my daughter was like, I want a bag. I need a bag. My 10-year-old. So give us a little bit of strategy, or, what's the secret to creating these must have, culturally relevant
Cult
gift
like
bags, that cult bags, gift bags.
I think once you like, and it's so funny because bags have always been a thing, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
bags is not it's not a new thing for, say, companies to give bags out. I think, and I think it's been a connection that we have had that has really driven our consumers when we have these experiences, and then also seeing the bags everywhere. So, like, even that was at, I think it was South by Southwest one time, and we were at a venue, and we slowly were giving out these bags, and these random people were starting to come because they kept seeing these bags on the street, right? So it's like it's definitely a form of advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So any brands that have an opportunity to have some piece of a merch, whatever it is, that can create that sea of brand exposure, I think that's what has been the great thing about the bags over the last couple of years. They've kind of been speaking on our behalf and drawing people to us, because people are like, "Where'd you get the bag? Where'd you get the bag? Where'd you?" And everybody's aunts and uncles are in the restroom while they want extra bags and all the things. So yes.
Do you want to talk about a little bit your design inspiration with the bag? Because that you mentioned that it was for the 10th year anniversary, and that was that the Mielleverse
Yeah.
activation?
Correct. Yeah. Mielle has been blessed and has got great designers in house, and it's amazing when you have great creative minds that can just come up with amazing, like, opportunities. And the bag type, I would say, came as a result of the inspiration for that year. So the Mielleverse played into the role of the bag material that we chose. And then obviously the design itself came from the team internally. But, I think if you know how to match your experience with said merch or some kind, or a takeaway, it does continue that story outside of the actual event. Because, as you know, the event is either one day, 2 days, and then after that it's finished, right? So it's a great memory piece for people to remember that they were the ones fighting in the queue, or running up to the guys saying, "Can I have a bag?" at that particular event. So hopefully when they come back, they can remember you.
So tell us a little bit about this Mielleverse experience, because it popped up at a few different tent poles around the country for the 10th anniversary. You guys did a lot of integration on social with it. Tell us a little bit about the Mielleverse.
Yeah, it was a great team collaboration. Number one, you hit the nail on the head. It was our 10th anniversary, and that to be celebrated from an entrepreneurial standpoint, Melvin and Monique celebrating 10 years was extremely amazing for them to be able to achieve what they've been able to achieve in 10 years. Not only is it an industry achievement, just being a small part of that has been amazing. So the Mielleverse was something that allowed us to tap into where the technology was going to, like AI, as you know, has slowly started being infiltrated into our social and our filters and all those kind of things. So we really wanted to bring that into the space of activation. So we were able to, really create an inside and outside futuristic kind of approach to the activation. So that's where the physical experience came in, where we were able, where I was, where we was able to really draw in our brains on like what would it feel like to be in like the future, and how can we bring that into an experience that was a space that people could remember. And we had the AI photo booth, and we had some other components that kind of helped to solidify that journey that we were on that year for our 10th anniversary.
So, being that Mielle was celebrating its 10th year anniversary, and you talked about all of the things that they accomplished within that 10 years, one of those things is and was their acquisition by Procter Gamble that happened within that 10-year time frame. So I would love to hear from your perspective, because you were really in it with them, during this run up to the acquisition. What role do you think experiential played in the value that the brand had, and that attraction that it had received from P&G to be acquired?
When you have the ability to be in the face of your consumer, people can see the true authenticness of a brand, right? So any kind of experiential activity you have is seen, whether you know it or not, by potential investors or potential companies that may be looking for opportunities to purchase a brand, right? So I would say that experiential brought the brand to life and enabled investors or Procter and Gamble and any other person, any other brands that did, approach Melvin and Monique from an acquisition standpoint to actually see, is this source a real thing? Is it just something that we're seeing on the shelf? Are consumers really feeling this brand the way that we feel they're feeling it? And they get that by seeing that engagement in person. So I think what you're saying, Asia, it's a thing that I don't think it's a conscious thing that people are aware of can happen, but there are many, even like Targets or Walmarts or any of these buyers, they're walking these experiential floors looking for brands to bring into their stores, right? And that is obviously an investment that they're making by bringing them on into their stores. So that's the opportunity, like with anything, like you're a scout, or if you're in athletics, I see that as that scouting opportunity that these said investors or retailers are using these experiential spaces for, to see who's next, who's hot, who are the consumers really engaging and rocking with. What how am I feeling being around it? What can we do to help elevate it? And I think those experiential opportunities really brought what they were doing already, right? Sales was already ranking up. They were doing really, really well, but it just brought the brand to life physically. That these companies were able to physically see that connection that Monique and Melvin had with the consumer, and obviously the brand Mielle.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, and it's a great reminder for brands who are on a growth trajectory, whether they're looking to be acquired or they're just looking to expand their distribution. It really goes beyond just what's happening in the digital space, what's happening on the screens. It's like, how are people relating to you in the real world? Are they creating foot traffic to go and engage with you at these tentpole events? Are they coming to your pop-up shops? All of those things are proof points that, like you said, the brand is hot, that you have a loyal customer base. So I think that's great advice and something for brands to keep in mind. Now, speaking of with this acquisition and what it did, I had I had a flashback recently, to the Mielle acquisition, because just recently, Rode and Hailey Bieber, that was a big acquisition that was made, and there was so much excitement and praise and well deserved around that. But it reminded me of when Mielle got acquired. I think, even before the acquisition, they had a huge investment that was made. I think it was by Berkshire,
Right.
if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. And then they had the acquisition. And I remember at the time, Monique had to step into the comments to talk about, why this acquisition was, so important and such a positive thing. And then, I mean, this goes back to probably even the Carol's daughter conversation, really, to be honest, when our Black owned brands have this opportunity to be acquired, like, this is a good thing. you know why do you think that the reception that we get as Black owned brands is different from a general market brand when something
Yeah.
like this happens?
Yeah, I think number one, it is being inside of it when it was happening. It's very saddening because not only are you showcasing what potential businesses are going to have to face if they even try and step into this whole acquisition, right? The response, I feel, was very unfair because, to your point, it was very monumental for a Black woman to be able to be acquired for the value that she was acquired for a 10-year period, which is amazing to be able to achieve what she was able to achieve in that short space of time, and to grow a brand in that short space of time from her kitchen, right?
Mm,
I think unfortunately we've had some other historical examples that, kind of had very similar responses. And I think we need to change what acquisition means to us as a culture, right? And I always go back to this analogy on bread. If I have a bread company and I go to a store, I'm going to put my bread on the shelf and hope that anyone picks my bread up, where I don't care where you're from. I just need your money, right? And I think sometimes we get so built up on the ownership component that we don't realize that what we're doing is we're building legacy for ourselves to
mm,
eventually become that conglomerate, right? We want to be able to become that conglomerate type that can invest into ourselves. But if we keep messing it up for us,
mm,
it will never get there,
mm,
and I think it's a very unfortunate thing that you see happening because it's just gonna make it very hard for others to be able to build legacy and wealth and to be able to be in a position to be able to acquire. And then also on the other side of it, money is available and people out there do have money. And unfortunately it wasn't a company that was a Black investment company that came in with the dollars needed to be able to expand. So it's you have to kind of see it from all different angles. And they made a decision that was right for them, right for their family, right for the brand. And it wasn't a decision that I'm sure was taken lightly from them. It could have been a period of time. I know there were other companies that that came to them, and they were in a great position that these companies came to them. It's not like they walked to the doors of
Mm-hmm.
these said conglomerates. They were coming to their door. So that's
Mm-hmm.
another lesson that we should be looking into. Like, how do I make my brand so
Attractive.
attractive that people are coming to me, throwing money at me, or saying they want my what I have, and I think we just kind of miss some of those learning opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. I always maintain that an acquisition for especially a Black owned brand is a win because, as an entrepreneur, it takes a lot of money to
Yeah,
create these brands, to build these brands, and it's going to take significant money for it to become a legacy brand to be
exactly.
around for the next 50 100 years. You can't always do that on, not saying that Monique and Melvin were operating in a mom and pop way, but just, when you start
Yeah,
out, you're a mom and pop situation. Even if you're
absolutely.
making millions in dollars, it's your mom and pop situation. To become a globally recognized brand, to last the test of time and become the next Estee Lauder. When she passed away, 15 years ago. And now, her son Leonard just passed away recently. I think he was in his 90s. This is a legacy brand. Estee Lauder is a brand that will last to the end of time. We want
Yeah,
a Mielle, we want Carol's daughter to last to
yeah,
the end of time, and that takes money, that takes
it does.
investment. Hailey Bieber is now in a position to become a legacy brand. We want to
Yeah,
clap for them. We need to clap for us too, and
we
and
do.
and continue to, we want these things to happen. We
We
have to, we need to want everybody Black to win.
do. We really do. We have to be more cheerleaders of the success, and everybody has a strategy for their business, and not everybody wants to physically have to be the person running the business all the time.
Hmm.
And I think
Hmm.
that's a great model, that you can create a said company or a framework that becomes attracted or attractive to investment. Then for me, that's great. That means I can do this again. That means I can do this again and again and again, and keep
Hmm.
building brands that become attractive for others to want. And I can keep building my legacy that way. But I think we
Yeah.
just see it in a different perspective.
Yeah. Being on this journey so far with P&G, what advice would you give the acquiring brand to look out for or to think about when they're looking to purchase a brand that has a lot of cultural relevance? It has a really specific customer.
Yeah, I think number one is the why. What has attracted you, and why are you even interested in this company to begin with? Number two, understanding what the company has been able to create, and understanding how can you harness that thing and keep that going with the abilities and expansion and the technology and the research that you have to enhance it, right? And I think, when we look at previous examples of many brands that have been acquired, one of the one thing that a lot of them do is that they miss what the DNA of that company was, and then they try to impose something else onto it, when you can also mess what you had for the very reasons why you bought it. So I would say, definitely listen to those that are working inside, whether they stay on board or don't stay on board. I feel like inside intel is extremely valuable, and can provide you guys, acquirers, with great footprints on what they can do to help enhance. I think having acquired brands that have great infrastructure can be super, super amazing for smaller businesses. As you had mentioned before, being able to have distribution, abilities requires money, right? Or it even requires you to have a company that has shelf life and shelf space, that now you can be a part of that family because it's a discounted quote unquote rate, opposed to paying the real rate. You're paying a discounted rate. So you have so many different advantages. Research could be another one that you have now access to. So there's some great areas of opportunity that acquirers can have for smaller brands. But I think essentially really understanding the core of the company is only going to help them continue that thread moving forward with the abilities to help them grow and expand. It's when you don't do that is where you see some of the issues that we've seen in the past, and hopefully not moving forward. But if they just throw money at something and come in and change things, you do lose the why. You lose the reason why you were attracted to that company in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because, companies have a lot of great processes that help them run efficiently, but really being able to understand the soul of the brand and, what sets it apart from the competitors and being able to maintain that's what's going to help the acquisition be successful. So that's a great point. Well, we are almost out of time, but before you go, we want to ask you, we ask this to all of our guests, we want to hear from you. Who is having a moment? What is having a moment? Or where is having a moment?
Wow, that's a loaded question, Aja. Where is having a moment? I feel like the whole world is having a moment right now. There's a lot going
That's
on
true.
in the world.
That is true.
There's so much going on in the world. I would say who is having a moment. I think us as human beings are having a moment right now. I feel we are in a world of so much going on that I feel that hopefully for most we are prioritizing what's important in life, because I feel like we don't know that we can see also that we don't have control over so many components that are happening in the world, that we need to be the moment that we're in. We have to be present in where we are at right now in life, whether it's work, family, whatever it is. Being present in life, putting your feet on the ground, staying present in where you're at, I feel is a moment we all need to have, because of the state of the world that we're living in, right? And we can't control it. We don't know what tomorrow is gonna to bring, and that's one thing I would say is important for all of us. So what is having a moment? I feel like we as human beings are having a moment, and we just need to be present, be in it, enjoy where we're at. And as I say to my kids, they're always like, what we doing next week? Can I just stay here?
Right.
Can I just be here today? I don't want to think about next week. I just want to stay in the rest of the day that I'm in right now, because tomorrow's going to have its other stuff that I need to think about. But let me just stay here. I just want to stay here.
Oh, that's a good one. We got to stay present. I'm going to take that on board myself. So thank you, Selina.
You are welcome.
Thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been amazing. I love what you do. I'm so grateful that you allowed me to be on this platform. Just continue being who you are, shining a light on so many other people. And may God continue to bless your life, honey.
Thank you, Selina. I appreciate it. Selina, thank you so much for an insightful conversation. You reminded us how we can lead with big vision and creativity, and how to stay present in the current climate. Moment makers, before you go, I would greatly appreciate it if you could rate, subscribe, review, and share the show with your fellow marketers, creators, and culture shapers. It helps more people discover us. You can follow us on social at Making the Moment Pod and online at makingthemomentpod.com for bonus content, show notes, and ways to connect. Until next time, don't be afraid to make your mark and make the moment.